What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. We're joined alongside a room full of heroes in here. We got Emilio in Tennessee. We got Jacob in Wisconsin. We got Tim in Green Bay. And we got a special guest tonight from Basarski Productions, Baz himself, the man, the myth, the legend. I just want to say this about this guy, man. When we first started doing the show, he's been someone who's been willing to help me out from day one. Got nothing but respect for him. And if you guys aren't following his latest mock drafts, he's been ripping it up. Learned a ton over there watching the channel. Baz, how you been doing, big dog?
I'm good, Clayton. Thanks for having me. I appreciate all the kind words. Draft season. It's crazy to hear someone say they learn a lot from me in the draft because I'm still learning myself. And it's just like, dude, every week it's learning new prospects, learning what Brian Gutekunst may be doing. And it's hard. It's very hard to try to predict, but I did a decent job last year doing it, but that means I'll probably get zero correct this year, but we're trying out here.
Hey, man, that's the reason you're so good at what you do is because what you just said. We're all still learning. Yeah. The people that think they're arrived and they know what they're doing, they don't have a damn clue what they're doing. That's the fact. So let's just do this, man. We'll get you out of here quick. I know you got a busy schedule. I just wanted to pick your brain on the draft a little bit. Why don't we start in the first round and just, with pick 23, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you? Because they could go in a multitude of directions. Obviously, they've already met with like Shamar Stewart, Michael Williams, guys like that. We're kind of excited about Jaire Alexander. That's a dude we're a little bit excited about. Now, some see him just as a slot. We see him as someone that might be versatile enough to play on the outside. With that being said, what would you like to see happen with the 23rd pick, and maybe what do you think will happen at this point?
I'm glad you touched up on Jaire because I agree. I'm with you guys there. I know a lot of people in Packers sphere, like this guy's just a slot. I don't think sure, he could play some of his best football there. But you see the versatility. I like him as a cornerback, but I don't like to be this kind of person to be like, oh, this person's not going to be available. But I truly don't think he will. He could go before Will Johnson, right? Like there could be a scenario where Will Johnson falls to 19-20 if the Packers are going to trade up. But I think the resounding, what we've heard from Brian Gutekunst has been he wants to get more draft picks. So I think it would be very funny if the Packers traded out of the first round for the first draft in Green Bay. I just feel like that would be such a Brian Gutekunst thing to do. Shamar Stewart, someone I also like. I'm glad you mentioned him. I know it's either side for Packers fans. It's like, I hate this guy's zero production, but I think when you put on the film and you see what he's tasked with over there on that Aggie defense, it's a little bit different. And I like him as an athlete, and it's not a Packers draft if you're not looking at guys that are extreme athletes that are young with not much production, as you had mentioned, Michael Williams as well. And that's a Georgia defender at that. So that's another guy that you could definitely tie to the Green Bay Packers. But, what we also heard from Brian Gutekunst is, it seems he's very happy or at least content with his edge room. I know a lot of us don't like to hear that. Now, if he's just throwing smoke out there, that could definitely be the case as well. Gutekunst isn't the one that put his, show his hand. But it seems like they just kind of hated Jason Rebrovich, and they're kind of like, all right, let's move on from that. We got Covington in the building, Lucas Van Ness is going to take a next step, which I think we all hope he does. Brenton Cox Jr. actually, took a massive step up later last season. I think a lot of people are kind of underrating him a bit there, and I think he could become something pretty special for this team. But I still think edge is on the board. But where I think where my eggs would be in my basket would be, defensive line. I really think defensive line because, Kenny Clark didn't really get what we wanted out of him last year per se. TJ Slayton left to the Cincinnati Bengals. Carl Brooks is a guy that I think has a ton of potential. I think Colby Wooden's expendable. And when you lose TJ Slayton, who played a decent amount of snaps, kind of that middle of the defensive line guy to help against the run, there are definitely a lot of options in this draft class. Kenneth Grant definitely comes to mind in that first round. Derek Harmon's a guy out of Oregon I really, really like. I see you have that board up here now. I'm just realizing that. But yeah, Derek Harmon, Kenneth Grant are probably my two guys in the first round in terms of defensive line. I haven't really dove much into Jaire Alexander, Tyleik Williams, but Walter Nolan's one I'm not too crazy on. And then of course, Mason Graham, you're not gonna see him at all for sure for the Packers. But I would say defensive line would be right now my early prediction. Again, we still got a few weeks left, so I'm sure that's going to change. We'll see. I know some people are like, oh, the Packers are going to end up with a tackle like Kelvin Banks, but I don't know. It just seems like they're really, really pushing this Jordan Morgan thing to tackle. and it's like they're going to give him the opportunity with the Rasheed Walker. So I don't know. It's right now. Right now, it does really feel like it's going to be defensive line because I feel like they're comfortable with what they have in edge. Not saying they're not going to draft any, and it all seems like they're more comfortable than a lot of us believe at cornerback. And we saw that thing with Jaire today, working out with McKinney. So who knows if he's back, right? And if he's back, this whole outlook changes. Like you don't target cornerback that early. But yeah, I'm going to go D line, and if I were to guess it at 23, it's probably going to be Derek Harmon.
I like it. And obviously his specialty is pass rush, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned that too, because like when you look at edge defender and people are reading the tea leaves, like, man, the top 30 visits, they're really focusing on edge. That means they're going edge in the first round. If you look at the guys they're looking at, Shamar Stewart, James Pierce Jr., those guys, there's a good chance they're going to be gone by the time the Packers pick. And to me, it makes me think they know what they've got in the defensive tackle room. Not that they won't schedule top 30 visits, but if those edge guys fall, they want to make sure they're prepared. Like, hey, these guys are higher on our board, but we did our due diligence. We know exactly what we got. Are they going to be a fit, that type of thing? As opposed to defensive tackle, like you may be looking, just like you said, Kenneth Grant, Derek Harmon, Walter Nolan, maybe Tyleik Williams, Alfred Collins. They met with Alfred Collins. Maybe they see him as a good enough pick to be at 23 too. Or maybe they're looking to trade back. But we've been on that defensive tackle thing the whole time as well, because Kenny aging, the cap number blimps next year. Devontae Wyatt, his pass rush is strong. We got him for another year probably. I think they may pick up the fifth-year option or look to extend him the way Goody talked about him being the most consistent pass rusher on the interior. And then you look to maybe separate from Kenny if you draft that true defensive tackle of the future. You can kind of move on from that contract next year, free up a bunch of cap, and you got the next guy in house. So we're definitely on board there. Let me ask you this. In the second round, what do you think in the second round? Because we've talked about a lot of guys. We talked about wide receivers. We talked about corners. I don't want to steal your thunder. There's a multitude of players really that pop up at that 54th pick that we go, boy, we would love to have those guys. What's your take on pick 54?
So I love diving down into wide receivers. It's my favorite position to break down, and I feel like at 54, I don't think even though Higgins is consensus 52, I just feel like a team's gonna go up and grab Jaden Higgins, and if that could be the Packers trading up. We did it with Christian Watson a few years ago, where you trade up early in the second round, get your wide receiver. But at 54, man, it's going to be Trey Harris. He's my favorite receiver in this class in terms of like value, where you can get this guy. I'm really, really high on Trey Harris and what I think he could bring to the Green Bay Packers. When you look at Harris, not the fastest guy per se, and I know we kind of need more of a take the top off a defense guy. I think you can get that later in the draft. But what really intrigues me about Trey Harris is his ability to just be that pure like X guy, right? And I know it doesn't really exist too much in today's NFL. You always got cheat motions, you got guys moving around all the place, right? But with Trey, man, it's 3 straight seasons of great production and in my opinion, a boring offense. Like when I went back and watched the Ole Miss tape, I'm just like, dude, this is so boring. That's why I'm not really high on Jackson Dart, because I'm just watching it. I'm just like, but when he did make the splash plays, you're like, all right, here we are, right? Yeah. And with him, it's just, you see his talent versus man coverage. And I know it's a smaller sample size, but that's not his fault, right? But when you see the reps versus man coverage, I mean, he went off. And like I said, with a boring offense that runs a lot of RPO, he still averaged 17.2 yards per catch this last season. Like I said, he's not a guy that is going to burn by you by any means, but he's a guy that's going to be able to box you out. He's going to be able to go up and win a contested catch. He's going to be able to beat one-on-one coverage. And those are things the Packers really struggled with last year, especially against man coverage. When you remove Christian Watson out of the equation, he was like our one guy that could beat man coverage when you look at the advanced analytics. So Trey Harris, definitely my favorite guy at wide receiver, and probably the route I want the Packers to go in the second round. But I'm interested your guys' thoughts on wide receivers as well. But that's my guy.
Yeah, so Trey Harris is one that's been on our radar a lot. Jaden Higgins as well. Like you said, man, I could see Jaden Higgins kind of rising up boards. With Trey Harris, it's funny. You hear pro scouts or people that were formerly scouts like DJ and some of the other guys, Bucky Brooks. The one worry you have with Jackson Dart and even the receivers is like, it felt like Lane Kiffin already had the decision made pre-snap. Like, hey, here's where we're going with the football. Yeah. Now, obviously, Jackson Dart seemed to have impressed at his pro day, kind of taking command and orchestrating pretty much everything on the field. And then it was cool. They said that they opened it up too. They paused the pro day, looked up in the stands and asked the coaches, everybody in attendance from the NFL, what do y'all want to see now? Like taking requests. So that helped a lot. But yeah, with Trey Harris beating man coverage. What was his man coverage grade? Do you guys remember?
95 is the highest coming out of this class. And again, it's a smaller sample size when you look into it. It's I forget how many exact reps it is, but it's a smaller sample size. But that's not his fault. Like if a team doesn't play as much man coverage against your offense, like you do with what the reps that you have. But yeah, it's the highest out of the class.
Got it. What about corner? How do you feel about cornerback, man?
Oh man, I guess we can all just kind of wait and see with the whole Jaire thing. I'm on the board of them moving on from Jaire. Not saying I necessarily think that's our best option. I just think that's what I think they're gonna do, just based off of salary, based off of playability, all of that. Signing Hobbs this offseason, I don't really know what they're going to do with him. Like, to me, I think he's capable outside, but, I think his best ball is going to be in the nickel. But then you have a guy like Javon Bullard there. So corner is an interesting one, but I think at the end of the day, we need depth at outside cornerback. I think that's definitely what has to happen, whether they keep Jaire, whether they move on from Jaire. Even if they keep Jaire, I'm sure they're still going to, want depth at that cornerback spot because, hey, he hasn't been available. And some options I really like, Will Johnson falls. I guess you could go up and grab that guy, but Siobhan Ravel's an interesting one for me because, you see the potential there, but it's really only like one season that, you saw too much. You had 3 games this last season due to the injury. But the season before that, you saw it there, right? Trey Amos is someone that I really like because a lot of these cornerbacks, when you're looking into them, such as Siobhan Ravel, like I mentioned, Will Johnson, Benjamin Morrison, you're all like talking about them and going, all right, they have all of these great things, but right. And you always have like a rebuttal at the end of it. But Trey Amos doesn't really, I mean, every player has their negatives for sure. But Trey Amos to me is the one guy that, it just kind of all fits for the Packers there. I was doing my chart today because I do like a whole Google Doc where I go over the Packers thresholds and stuff, try to predict what the Packers are looking at, which is very, very difficult, as I mentioned. But with Trey Amos, he's the only corner in terms of Packers threshold fit that have good man coverage grade, good zone coverage grade, good run defense grade, and had some, ball production this past season. He's the only one with all 4 of those categories. So that's like a 70+0 man coverage grade, 70+ zone, and then good run defense grade, and at least like 3 interceptions and a sub 70 quarterback rating allowed. He's the only one that I have. But there's other options. If the Packers don't go cornerback too early, say in the middle round, Zoff Frazier is definitely a guy that's very, very intriguing. That kind of feels like a Packers guy just due to like the extreme athletic profile, 9.28 RAS, 6'3", a little bit on the lighter side, 186, which I know the Packers usually like their corners about like 195. But he allowed a really low passer rating this past season. Zoff, I know it's against lesser competition, but 35.9 passer rating allowed at 6 interceptions, good run defense grade. I think he's projected like the 4th or 5th round. Another guy that's interesting that feels like could be Packers are looking at is obviously Darian Porter, just due to the athletic profile, but he didn't play much football, right? Like he hasn't been I think he only had 1 season starting this last season. Outside of that, hasn't played too much, but you see the profile there, 6'3", 195 pounds, 9.99 RAS, ran, had a passer rating allowed of 4.7 this past season with 3 interceptions, but I know he's pretty poor against the run. He had pretty poor run defense grade, but those are some of the corners I like. Some later ones. Mac McWilliams is interesting. I don't know if you guys consider him a safety. I think he can play, both inside, outside, maybe even some safety, but I'm just starting to really like dive down into like the later round cornerbacks right now. I think on mock draft database, he is listed as a safety. So that's why you're probably not finding him there. So I guess it really just depends where you see him, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on corner. I think there are a few guys I like. Oh, Noel Williams is another one. Noel Williams is definitely another one out of Cal. A ton of ball productions. I think it's 7 interceptions this past season. Doesn't like fit that Packers threshold, but like he's not like quite there yet. A little bit like a lower of an athlete. I think he had Noel Williams. Do I have him on here? Yeah, he had a 7.01 RAS. So he ran a 4.5 40. His vertical's a little low at 33.5, 6 foot 199. So he fits the height weight. Noel Williams, outside guy, 7 interceptions. I really like him, but I'm worried the Packers like kind of maybe don't have him as high on their board.
We all are, man.
Yeah.
We like, that's what we think.
I feel like there's a corner every draft where you go, this guy has a ton of production. Like, I love him for the Packers. Then you look up some of the threshold stuff and you're like, ugh. You're like, okay, maybe not. Maybe they won't go with that guy. But Noel Williams is definitely that guy for me this year. But yeah, that's how I feel on corner.
Got it, man. Good stuff. Well, before we let you go, is there a prospect that you go, man, late in the draft? It doesn't have to be a specific position. Just what's the first person that comes to mind that you go, man, I really think people might be sleeping on this guy? Do you have like one of those favorite late round guys that come to mind? No matter what the position?
It's gonna be. I like wide receiver a lot. Like I said, it's the one thing I like breaking down the film the most, and it's gonna be Elijah Badger out of Florida.
We've been talking about him, Baz.
Really?
The drop percentage,
no drops.
Success against man coverage.
Yeah. He was a dog at ASU even, and a lot of people like a couple of years ago had like a not mock draft, but like board, and he was very high on some of those boards, like prospect 70, 80, 90, right? And if they had anybody consistency at quarterback, man, he's 1,100 yard receiver, and we're talking about him in the second round. Like I fully believe they're rotating quarterbacks. They're doing the old Wisconsin Badger. I don't know if you guys remember the Tanner McAvoy days and all that. I don't even know what they're doing over there, but Elijah Badger's interesting. I think both those guys coming out, Shamir DK and Elijah Badger, honestly, I think are going to be decent prospects at that wide receiver position. But you see Badger, man, the contested catch rates up at like 68.8%, grade versus man coverage 88.5, 0 drops this past season. We all want more of 0 drops from our receivers this next season for sure. So he's a guy I really like, is Elijah Badger. He's definitely my like sleeper guy, and if team ends up with him in the 7th round, I think it's gonna be a steal.
Got it. Yeah, when I seen the 0% drop percentage, I'm like, that's got to be a typo. And then you go back and check, like,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure he didn't drop a pass all year. It's pretty wild. So, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Baz, it's so good to catch up with you, man. Like, we can't thank you enough for dropping in, bro. I want to respect your time here, and we'll let you get out. But, man, if there's anything we can ever do for you, let us know, dude. For sure.
Dude, for sure. I really appreciate you guys for having me on. I love talking draft because that's honestly, like, outside of, I would say watching the Packers on Sunday, draft is definitely my favorite time of the year. Definitely my favorite time of the year.
Can I ask Baz one question?
Yeah, go for it, guys. I got time.
What do you think about Torrey Horton?
I like Torrey Horton. I like Torrey Horton. He's a guy, was it like 4th round projection, right? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's another guy like a receiver where, a lot of the receivers the Packers have drafted, they kind of either had a down or injured year the past season that they're getting drafted in, but then the year before that you look at and you're like, oh, okay, you see it there. So Horton, I think, had, was that 9.79 RIS, 4.41 140, 6'2", 196 pounds. And if you look back at 2023, his grade versus man coverage is pretty high, 76.4, very, very low drop rate at 4.8%. He can also run block. He had right around a 70.0 run block grade there. So he's a guy that I definitely do like in the 4th round. I watched some of his film over there at Colorado State, and he's a guy I do like.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Yeah, it looks like the latest mocks have him 3rd to 4th round. I'd be
3rd to 4th. Yeah, sure. That makes sense. Like 120. Hey, if we could get Torrey Horton at 124, I'm cool with that.
Absolutely, man. Well, bro, it's good catching up, dude. If there's anything we can do, like I said, let us know, man. We'll be watching the channel as always. You're killing it. Absolutely crushing it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, guys. All right, guys. Appreciate
it, man. Appreciate it, man. All right, that was Baz from Basarski Production, one of the best YouTube channels.
There's no way they're not following Baz and following us. There's just no way.
He didn't hop on for promotion, I promise you.
Yeah.
If anything, you probably lost a couple.
If anything, give us a shout out on your channel, Baz.
Oh, man. No, he's awesome, dude. I'm telling you, since day one, I reached out to him like, bro, love your channel. Getting ready to get mine cranked up. What do you think? He's been nothing but a sounding board. Hey, try this, go with that. Some people, they're up on their little pedestal, not him, dude. He's just down to earth, really good dude. So you guys know that.
He knows what he's talking about too,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Big factor right there for sure.
Yeah. Greg Rice said, I hope we're letting Baz pick a mock with the PTA big board. He'd see that board and go, get this crap out of him.
Yeah, that's just
what you talking about. Hardy the Prophet in the chat. Yo, fellas, just received the signed LVN jersey. Thank you. My first ever jersey. Y'all are awesome. Hey, thank you for supporting the show, Hardy. Appreciate it, man. Glad you got it okay and everything. And that reminds me, too, reached out to Chewy. He won the autograph Mason Crosby card. And it's crazy. Chewy this was his 3rd time winning. And here come the rigged comments, right? So I reached out to Chewy and was like, bro, you need to go buy a lottery ticket. Okay. That's what you need to do right now because you just want to, he said, give it to somebody else. He said, y'all have already been too kind giving me stuff. So Michael Godfrey was the second place winner. Michael Godfrey, hit us up as soon as possible. You can email PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. If you're in the Patreon group, just send me a direct message. You can also text me 865-658-5824. If we don't hear from him, Roger Davis was the third place winner. So both of you guys reach out, and if we don't hear from Michael Godfrey, we'll go ahead and get it to Roger. So there you go with that. But yeah, Hardy, again, thanks for supporting the channel, buddy. We appreciate you. So we're going to get into a couple of different topics, and not before we do, because we get a little bit deep into some of these talking points. Is there anything you guys want to hit on before we dive into anything here? Anything at all at the forefront of your mind?
Negative.
Yeah. All right, cool. Let's do it. So let's start off here with, since we're already talking draft with Baz, let's just kind of stay in that vein there. And we put this article together earlier today, and we'll go ahead and get the banner back up there with the picks. So we'll have that. So you guys know we did what we did with pick 54 last night, right? We just basically went through and did the same exact thing with pick 87. All right. So these are 5 prospects that could be available for Green Bay at pick 87. So when the Packers make their choice with the 87th pick in the 3rd round, there's a good chance these players could still be available. Below are scouting reports on each, along with their ranking on the PTA big board. Notably, all 5 have met with the Packers at some point, whether through visits, workouts, or interviews during the 2025 NFL draft process. Number 1 on this list is Benjamin Morrison. He comes in at the 77 spot out of Notre Dame. One of those dudes that had an excellent year. I think it was last year. He looked really, really strong. He had the hip injury, so if everything checks out, I feel like his value is somewhere around the 77 spot. There's many people that see him as a first to second rounder, though. Here's what the scouting report says. Benjamin Morrison is a highly skilled cornerback with elite instincts and ball skills, making him one of the top cover men in the class. He's fluid in his hips, if the hip is healthy, of course. I made that up there. Making him one of the top cover men in the class. Yeah, he's fluid in the hips, sticky in man coverage, and has a knack for creating turnovers, as shown by his standout 2024 season. While some project him as a potential first-round pick due to his upside, concerns about his slot frame and occasional struggles against physical receivers could see him slide. If he's available at 87, Morrison would be a steal for the Packers, offering immediate cornerback 2 potential with CB1 traits in Green Bay's secondary. So here's the PFF grades from the last 3 years. 2022, 77.3. 2023, 79.4, 2024, 71.4. And you see the majority of his snaps have come outside at 272 last year. Let's just go around the horn with it, boys. How would y'all feel about Benjamin Morrison at 77? It kind of feels like a pipe dream, but that's where he's out on the board, so I figured we'd hit
it. I wouldn't be all right with it, or I'd be okay with it, but it's kind of like how Baz was just talking about. He definitely peaked in the year prior where he almost had an 80 flat grade, looks like some injury issues, obviously in 2024. So, but I mean, he's been pretty steady Eddie his whole career. I'd be okay with it, especially being in the 3rd. I think I'd be all right with it.
What about you, Tim? How you feel about it, man?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, we're talking 3rd round pick, right? So this is assuming we don't go first or second. With a top tier corner, you could do a lot worse than Benjamin Morrison, I think, regardless of the injury history. I mean, on the younger side, skill set is there, it's kind of hit or miss. Corner is one of those position groups in this draft that I feel like you got to hit early if you really want that top tier crop of the talent. But when you get to 3rd round and beyond, there are some guys there, and Benjamin Morrison would definitely be on that list for sure.
Got it. What about you, Excelio? How do you feel about Benjamin Morrison at
looking at his numbers in Excel there, Clay, we had him consensus 22 when we got it in. Obviously, he had the injury the last year. Coming off an injury, they're going to happen. I think that, it seems maybe not as bad if it's one and done, clean tear, clean rip, whatever. I mean, I picked up a little speed after I tore my ACL. Doesn't mean anything, but, it's just a mental hurdle. Can you get through that? Played at Notre Dame, big school, been in, big competition, stuff like that. I wouldn't mind it if we had the wide corner, at some point. If Ja's not the move, we're going to have to figure something out.
Yeah, definitely. Greg Ross says, Excelio. Love it. All right. His RAS obviously incomplete as he's still rehabbing from that hip injury, but he did He did come in with a 9 1/4 inch hand size. His arm length was 30.3. Height was 6 foot, a little over 6 foot at 7.99 is what it scored. 193 pounds. So he's got the weight the Packers like there, right at it. A 6.98. And then a bench press, man, 17 reps. That was pretty impressive, man. There's some offensive linemen that finished with like 22 reps.
That's like Jacob in the gym. Just
exactly.
Him up.
And look at that right there. He is a physical corner when he's healthy. There's no doubt about it, man. Like he will come up and lay the wood. He's not scared to play the run. Obviously, a 76.7 run defense grade. And again, I know it surprises people because I'm a huge Notre Dame fan, and I have not been like standing on the mountain for this, shouting from the mountaintop for this guy. But I just feel like there's other corners like Trey Amos grabbed my attention way quicker than Benjamin Morrison did. Now, Benjamin Morrison was a captain as well. There's a lot of leadership qualities there. Teammates absolutely loved him. But I don't know, man. I have a hard time believing he's going to be there at 87. And I personally think that 54 would be a reach, but many people see him as a first-round pick. Let me ask you guys that. Do y'all think Benjamin Morrison is worthy of a first-round pick? Am I the only one that feels like he isn't?
I don't think he will go in the first. I could see him in the mid to late second, though.
Got it.
I think it depends on who's picking, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if Jaire Barron's on the board, I'd probably take him over Morrison. But, that I'm speaking from a Packer fan perspective. There's, 31 other teams out there that are in this draft. So I think there's a chance he could go first round. I don't think it's completely unreasonable.
Yeah.
I think you're spot on, Tim, just because the way he's tracked, PFF had him 15th. Consensus had him 22nd when we got the numbers. I mean, if he's up that early and then everybody else hops up a position, stuff like that, I think teams will still kind of eye him as being that talent that's there. I feel like it's sort of like Simmons, the tackle. Dude would have been the best tackle in the draft if he didn't get hurt. And then having the guard have it pop out to his spot. So who's going to get the steal of the draft if you take a chance on the quote unquote hurt guy? And bring him in. Right.
Christy Casual says, has he been healthy, Clayton? Again, up till that hip injury, to the best of my knowledge, he was always healthy. I mean, he scored, with his PFF grades, he's got full scores. It's not like there was any year where he missed significant time, to the best of my knowledge. I always remember him being a fixture. I remember me and Tim and Jacob and Emilio doing the college football podcast that we did there for a short time in the off season or leading into the college football season. And he was like one of the top 3 corners in the draft. He was right up there in the mix.
And like Baz was saying earlier about like prototypical corners for the Packers. I mean, 6 foot 190. He's like right in that sweet spot as far as the measurables. And then injury history. Actually
a little bit heavier than that too, Tim, at the combine at 193. So it's on his mind. You know that.
Nice. So he got a little thicker. I like that. But, I mean, you look at the injury history. Obviously, you got to take that into consideration. But, I mean, the guy just turned 21. Like, he's 21 on the nose. So, you've got a little time to develop him as a pro. I mean, this could be a guy that, maybe doesn't have the most out-of-this-world rookie season, but year 2 for him could be a huge jump in the NFL, depending on, how he develops.
Yeah. One of the other things that kind of hurts his draft stock a little bit is everyone, as soon as he went down, everybody was like, oh, no, Notre Dame's screwed. And Marcus Freeman, the way he recruits that secondary, I mean, he's got that secondary humming. Xavier Watts, hearing obviously Greg Cosell talk about him earlier today, he was raving over Xavier Watts. Sounds like he's higher on him than I am as well. But they were able to just turn that cornerback, that whole secondary room completely over after Benjamin Morrison got hurt, and here they go playing the national championship. So I think that kind of hurts his stock a little bit. Like many people looked at him like that's the cornerstone of the DB room for Notre Dame. He goes down, and they just never miss stride. So I think that plays a little bit of a role as well.
4-star recruit coming out in 2022. Right now, consensus has him going in the first round 55.5% of the time. Best ranked was 22nd. His projected round is probably second, but all the mocks that are going, I don't see anybody taking him past 30 at the Bills. All the recent mocks that have done.
Wow. Good stuff, man. Appreciate that info. All right, moving along. In the number 80 spot on our PTA big board is wide receiver Jalen Royals.
Here's the guy.
Obviously, that is Jordan Love's alma mater. There's a little bit of a pipeline being created there from the Packers scouts. Jalen Royals is a smooth, explosive wide receiver who thrives as a deep threat and after-the-catch playmaker. His 2024 tape highlights his ability to stretch the field with speed and track the ball downfield, though he's still refining his route tree and consistency against press man coverage. Royals' big play potential make him an intriguing fit for Green Bay's offense, where he could develop into a complementary weapon. Projected as a third-round talent, he brings the kind of juice that could elevate the Packers' passing game. And, of course, with the PFF grades in 2022, he didn't play much, 47.8. In 2023, he jumps all the way to 78.6, and he improved again in 2024, jumping to 79.6. You see, he lined up out wide last year, 379 snaps. He was in the slot, 82 snaps. How do y'all feel about Jalen Royals? We'll start with you this time, Emilio. What do you think about Jalen Royals, man?
Yeah, I like it. 6 foot, at least we got him over that marker. He's, graded out well, 69th, 65th. PFF had him 72nd and 70th when we had him in there. I wouldn't be opposed to it. Kid's willing. He's out there on kick return. Someone that not afraid to get hit if you're out there on kick return. I mean, you got to be ready to get smoked. So I like the toughness there coming from Utah State. Let's see if we get another dog like Jordan Love.
Yeah, and Jacob, obviously the Packers seen something in him. They already met with him once. What do you think about Royals? Would you be okay with him there in the third round?
Yeah, I definitely would. You look back, again, another player that had his best year a year prior. In 2023, he played 13 games, had a 78.6, which even more impressive is predominantly out wide, almost 500 snaps out there, targeted almost 100 times, caught 70 balls for 1,084 yards, averaging over 15.5 yards per reception, and he had 15 receiving touchdowns. That's pretty impressive there, 15. The only thing that gives me a little bit cause for concern is that in 2022, he only played 7 games. 2024 only played 7 games. So if there's a little bit of an injury concern, I definitely would be a little bit worried, but I can't tell if the 2022 was more of him just not getting time on the field because he was young and sharing time and all that. Receiving grade of an 80.6, drop rate of a 5.2. So that's right where we want it to be. 3.0 yards per route run, right where we want it to be. And what was really cool, even though he may have played limited snaps and limited games in 2024, he basically progressed every single year. So his first game went from a 64 to a 66, slight drawback at a 62, then a 71.9, 74.6, 75, finishing with a 78.9. So that's the type of progression I want to see every game, every week. He gets better.
Yeah. Coach Lynn says Royals in the third, then Dante Thornton in the fifth. I'd be over the moon with that draft. I mean, it just shows you there's talent all the way across the board with this draft. Tim, what do you think about Royals, man? I know he's not named Higgins, but what do you think about Jalen Royals there in the third round? If for some reason you can't land Higgins, because like Baz said, he thinks he'll be gone at 54, which we kind of talked about that.
Yeah, for sure. I like Jalen Royals a lot. I really do. And in the third round, again, you could do a lot worse, especially like if we don't hit on a receiver first or second round. I'd be looking to a guy like this if he's still on the board. Definitely more of a possession guy, able to play on the outside and in the slot, and kind of a yak machine. He's a good yards after the catch kind of dude, which would be a good complement to, guys like Tucker Kraft and, a few other pass catchers that we have that extreme yak ability. He's not going to blow you out of this world with his, route running and athleticism or anything. But the fact is he's a solid option in the third round. Again, if he makes it there, right? This guy could very well be off the board in the second round as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I definitely like Jalen Royals for sure.
Definitely could. With the RAS, he scored a 9.00. He meets the height and weight threshold. He blows the weight threshold out of the water there, as the Packers like those guys around 190, 195. He's sitting at 205 weight-wise at 6 foot even, 36-inch vert, 10.01 broad jump, his 40-yard dash of 4.42. That's pretty darn good. You closing in on 4.3 speed there at that weight. It's impressive. 20-yard split of 2.56. 10-yard split of 1.53, pretty evenly ran 40-yard dash. And then, of course, he has a good composite agility grade as well, with a shuttle of 4.25 and a 3-cone of 6.94. So that's Jalen Royals. Again, he is in the number 80 spot on our PTA big board. Moving along to the next prospect here, we got Greg Cosell's one of his favorite players in this draft, Mr. Braden Swinson, edge defender, out of LSU. Here's a scouting report on him. Braden Swinson is a high-motor edge rusher with a relentless approach and a solid frame for the position. He's shown growth as a pass rusher in 2024 using quick hands. It's exactly what Greg Cosell said. He uses his hands better than any pass rusher in this draft, is what he said. And a strong bull rush to collapse pockets. He also said, you've got to play with power at the NFL level. Braden Swinson does that. It's another thing that he said. Again, the Packers have already met with him as well. To collapse pockets, though he's still working on his flexibility around the edge. Swinson's effort and power make him a strong run defender as well. Likely a day 2 or early day 3 pick, he could provide the Packers with valuable depth and rotational upside along their defensive front. When you look at the PFF grades here, starting in 2020 at 61.2, 60.1, then he jumps to a 73.2, then he climbs up in 2023 to an 81.0, and then in 2024, he jumped even further to an 83.3. His pass rush grade last year, 90.3. This dude, I don't agree with what the scouting report says right here, to be honest with you, with the day 3 anyway. I think this dude's going to be gone in the second round, most likely. Now, if he makes it to the third round for us, awesome. And some people are probably going, why are you talking about if he's going to be gone? Because we're showing where these players are on our board, right? Like this is around that range where we would look up and go, the board lines up with the prospect right here. Right. I'll start with you here, Jacob. What do you think about Braden Swinson, man? 6'4", 250 is what the card shows, although the RAS measurements had him at 6'3", 255.
Yeah, I mean, either way, this kid is starting to grow on me quite a bit. You talked about how being consistent. He's played consistently 10 games, 12 games, 13 games. You talk about ascending score. He goes from a 73.2 to an 81 flat to an 83.3. You talk about production. He went from 0 sacks to 2 sacks to 9 sacks. He had 43 hurries in 2024. I'll say it again, 43 hurries, which was even more impressive is that the pass rush grade, yes, 90.3. Run defense grade, though, like you said, almost a 70. That is very well-rounded, super would love to have that addition on that line. And then the true pass rush grade of a 91.4, and which is just insane, is the pass rush win rate, 22.1%. Like, what? Are you kidding me? And if you look at his whole season breakdown, 13 games, the worst game that he had of the whole season was in week 1 against the USC, and it was a 61-7. Other than that, he never had basically a single game that was below a 65. It was just insane. Most of the games he's in the 80s, high 70s, high 60s. It's just consistent as all can be.
Love it. What about you, Tim? What do you think about Braden Swinson there at 87?
I mean, I agree with Jacob. This is a guy that's kind of been growing on me, the last couple of weeks here. And, honestly, I think if he adds, I shouldn't say adds because he's got it already, but if he continues to develop that run D side of his game, he's going to be a monster in the NFL. And I think if we're talking third round, like any team that gets, if he's on the board in the third round and you don't draft this guy, I feel bad for you. I really do. I do think there is a good chance that he goes a lot sooner. And, pass rush is a huge need, for the Packers. We've talked about it, Goody's comments aside about being happy with the personnel we have doesn't mean you can't constantly get better at the edge position in particular. So I definitely think that, Swinson is one of those dudes that's kind of cut from that cloth that, what his strengths are, but if he, develops on the things that he's not quite known for, I mean, this guy's going to be a complete player. Definitely someone to look at.
Greg Ross asks, isn't he too light for Goot? At 255, that seems to be the cutoff. It's like it starts at 255. Now, if it's a first-round pick, I would say probably want to stretch it to 260, 265 unless you're ranked extremely high like James Pierce Jr. But the fact that they already met with Swinson tells me they feel like they could put some weight on this kid. Obviously, played at 250 at LSU according to that. And then at RAS, you already put on 5 pounds to go into the combine. Emilio, he came in at 6'3.5", 255 pounds. His shuttle 4.33 and his 3-cone a 7.13, scoring an 8.49 and an 8.17. Arm length 33.3. Obviously, his hands at 9.8 as well. But man, the way he uses his hands, it's all about technique with that.
Mm-hmm. two things. So that Latu was the best guy with his hands last year, right? That's who they were talking, best guy with his hands, and maybe pass rush sets and wins. Obviously, his pass rush repertoire isn't as good as Latu, but I like where that's starting. I also like that he did the shuttle and the composite. That's something that they're getting away from a lot because they're getting cooked on that. Like if you don't have a good shuttle, if you're not at 7 or below 7, for a speed guy and things like that, it's really going to really hurt your stock just because you can't get in and out of your brakes, the explosion, all that. So I think that it's cool that they see the frame, they like it. Let's bring them in here. Let's do something with it from a big school. It's right up their alley.
Definitely. All right. For those of you listening on the pod, that's going to do it for hour 1. We will continue this conversation with pick 87 on the other side for hour 2. We appreciate y'all.
For those of you listening on the pod,
welcome into hour 2, baby. Tim is on his game tonight, let me tell you. All right. Next guy on the list, we're going offensive tackle here in the 91 spot on our PTA big board. Again, this is for pick 87. So let's say all those guys are gone, and this is the guy that the Packers met with highest on our board when we pick at 87. Ozzie Trapillo out of Boston College got ties, obviously, to Jeff Hafley, who's now our defensive coordinator, just like I've seen people mentioning Donovan Ezaraku. We've talked about him like, hey, man, we would be okay with that pick as well, depending on where he goes. So I have a feeling that there's going to be at least one of these BC guys end up being a Packer. I really do. I think there's just too strong a ties there with Jeff Hafley. But Ozzie Trapillo in the 91 spot, offensive tackle, Boston College. Trapillo is a tough, physical offensive tackle with the size and strength to compete in the trenches. He's a mauler in the run game, using his leverage and grip strength to move defenders, and has shown steady improvement in pass protection throughout 2024. While he lacks elite athleticism, his technique and grit make him a reliable option. Projected as a third-round pick, Trapillo could serve as a developmental swing tackle for Green Bay with the potential to grow into a starter. Does that not sound like what we need right now? Like, seriously, you go draft a dude that he's going to step into that swing tackle spot. That would be awesome. I'm trying to think. I think it's Billy Teapot, too. Billy O'Brien is the new head coach out there. He was the guy that was in Houston and had a lot of success before he ended up taking over as GM, put too much on his plate, and then got let go. He took over for Hafley at BC. He was with New England the year before. So I guarantee you Ozzie Trapillo has gotten firsthand what it's like to be coached by an NFL head coach, if that makes sense. When you look at the PFF grades here, for Ozzie Trapillo, starting in 2021, 65.8, fell to a 61.8, jumped to a 74.9, then jumped to a 76.8 last year. The big thing that sticks out, though, Emilio, look at this RAS, man. 6'8", 316 pounds, 33-inch arms. Now, keep in mind, 33 is kind of that. I love hearing Ross Tucker talk about this. It's like almost everybody in the NFL says you got to have arms at least 33 inches. Ross Tucker said, I'm sorry, man. If somebody is coming up a quarter of an inch short of 33 inches and they don't get drafted for that, that's just stupid. That's a guy who spent like 7-8 years in the National Football League as an offensive lineman. But Emilio, when you look at this, man, this kind of feels like this might be a Packer here a little later in the draft.
Hey, I mean, Travis Clever controlling the ropes, baby. I think that, no, the fact,
we're going to give him some.
The fact that he's 6'8" is crazy. I mean, Clay'd be walking up to him. How's the weather up there? How's it going? Dude is freaky tall. But I think that's, again, going back to the Swenson thing, you have the frame to work on. Hafley's met the dude. He's seen him, seen how he works as a player. And I wouldn't be opposed to it just, going from there. I mean, you get him into an NFL facility, I feel like it'd be one of those Caleb Jones kind of thing. Let's see what we can do with him, see how he does. And if it doesn't work out, at least we tried it. But could you imagine if it does work out having a 6'8", tackle? I mean, Mekhi Becton went inside and he's 6'7", right? So he played guard all last year. It's not like it's impossible. We
talked the other day about one of the greatest offensive tackles in the history of the game, and it was Jonathan Ogden coming in at 6'9", I think he was 6'8" or 6'9", if I remember correctly. So yeah. It's funny, too. Like, I see people in the chat that's too tall. It's amazing how we go from they're too short, they're too tall. It's like, can they block? That's what I need.
Do you guys remember we had Caleb Jones? He was around 6'7", 6'8". Kadeem Telfort around that size. We had another bun that was a swing tackle that I can't remember why we let him go, but he was around 6'7". Big boys.
I can tell you those guys might have been missing the two attributes about Ozzie Trapillo that I like the most, which is extremely high FBI and extremely good footwork for a guy his size. And I think that's what kind of gives him the edge over some of the other guys in the class. So it's a lot to like about him.
Yeah, still scoring a good composite speed grade and a good composite agility grade at 6'8", 316 is pretty impressive. I know you look at the card and go, man, it's in the sevens. That ain't that. You know, when you're talking about that big of a boy, you know his feet he's got to have awesome footwork for sure, man.
Yep.
So anything else on Ozzie Trapillo that you boys may or may not have here before we move along? We're good on it?
His pops played in the NFL. His pops was an old lineman at Boston College. So,
nice.
like father, like son right here.
Plus, Andy Monday already found him the best nickname, the Blizzard of Oz.
Blizzard of Oz. Let's go.
Come on.
You are a Packer, sir.
Andy Monday just called it. He's a Packer.
Hell with it, Andy. We're drafting him at 23. I called it.
That's right.
This might be my favorite guy right here. Y'all ain't ready. You remember we showed you Jacob Bayer in the cowboy hat? Look at this guy right here, right? Go ahead and get him with the 6th or 7th pick, right? Got to have him in the clubhouse. Packers already met with him. Top 30 visit, by the way. Now imagine you go out and you say, Isaiah McDuffie's here for 2 years. We got Christian Welch for a year. Why not bring in some strong competition at linebacker, right? And who knows? This guy might take off, win that job. Christian Welch gets kicked to the practice squad. But tell me you don't want that dude in your locker room right there.
That's
We're talking
Danny?
about
that's
Danny Stutzman right there. Jacob, what did you say in our text this morning? You remember what you said about this?
Am I allowed to say it?
There's no words in it. So, yeah, I think you could say it. What did you say, Jacob? Roughly.
I believe I said something to the effect of, ain't no lady going to look at this man and not get pregnant. Something like that.
So Danny Stutzman, I'm just going to call him Danny Stetson is what I'm going to call him. So obviously played for the Sooners out there. Number 94 on our list. Danny Stutzman is an instinctive, hard-hitting linebacker who plays with a throwback style and exceptional football IQ. He's a tackling machine in the run game and has improved his coverage skills in 2024. Though he can struggle against quicker tight ends, Stutzman's leadership and tenacity make him a culture fit for the Packers defense. As a likely third-round selection, he could step in as a rotational linebacker with the upside of becoming a 3-down contributor. Also someone, you read that profile and go, put that dude on special teams screaming down the field, right?
Yep.
You look at the PFF grades. In 2021, 62.7. 2022, he fell to a 58.9, but then he started to improve. In 2023, 71.8. 2024, he climbed to 76.6. Look at the run defense grade, boys. 90.9.
Yep.
Now, coverage, that's a struggle, don't get me wrong. But imagine that dude, if you get in a little bit of trouble with injuries and you have to plug and play him in your base 4-3, he's only going to be out there for the majority of run plays, right? If someone goes out in a 12 or a 21 personnel, bring that thumper in with a 90.9 run defense grade. And, oh, by the way, just our special teams, too.
Yeah, he really just seems like an absolute perfect replacement for Isaiah McDuffie.
Yeah. Look at the size, too. 6'4", 241. Yeah. Let's see if that's what he measured at. He actually came in at 6'3". Go ahead, Jake.
No, still, I'll take that. 40 time a 4.52. Really enjoy that. 20-yard split. Everything looks good. It just really does. It looks polished.
Yeah. You gotta love a stack backer that just wants to go out there and hit somebody, right? Yeah. Like that, kind of like the Bobby Boucher factor, he just wants
tackling fuel.
Tackling
fuel,
That hat right there gives me tackling fuel.
I'll take the lower coverage grade, because we're not asking him to do that very often. And right. I think Jacob hit it on the head. And just like you mentioned, Clayton, it's great that we've got Zay McDuffie back in the fold for the next couple of years. But, moving forward, Stutzman is the type of dude you want to put out there behind a guy like that, especially with us losing that veteran presence of Eric Wilson back there. So we got Quay, we got Coop, we got McDuffie. You bring a guy like this in the mix, plus we got Tyron Hopper still working in the fold. Linebacker room looks really good with a guy like this, especially if you're talking third round.
Yeah.
Emilio, how do you feel about it, man? Danny Stutzman here at 87. Would you be all right with it?
94 overall season 3 card Clay. I'll take that. But no, yeah, he's a real good linebacker on the inside. Wants to play downhill, wants to get in the backfield. Be a disruptor. Coming from Oklahoma, I think that's huge. I like that he's got a vertical. Kind of don't love that he didn't run the agility and match that with his coverage grade being a little sus. I think that's an issue probably in man and, floating the zones. But for what we would ask him to do, coming in, being the outside three, either weak or strong side, and go from there, I wouldn't be opposed to bringing in a guy like Stutzman who had, a good college career, and get him back in here. And I love the fact that he played in basically every snap he could, played, defense, special teams, everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously with Goody having some of his guys already meet with him, I imagine it was at a pro day, or maybe even, I don't know if he's at the combine. Yeah, obviously he was at the combine. I don't think these are pro day measurements. So they've shown some interest in Stutzman. And it's just like the whole tight end conversation with Musgrave, right? Like, well, we got Musgrave. Why do we need a tight end? Do we not remember Quay Walker getting banged up? Do we not remember Edgerrin Cooper being injured coming out of camp?
Yeah.
Like, injuries happen. And you're building –
especially the linebackers and tight ends, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, when you're building your roster from the bottom up, that's what you're looking at. It's like you're looking to improve that linebacker. I know we signed Christian Welch, but it doesn't mean Christian Welch is going to be on the 53-man roster. We thought he was a slam dunk last year, and what happened? They literally kicked him out the building, right? Yeah. So you go and draft someone like him. And again, if the stars align, it makes sense. This might be this would be a great fourth-round pick. We're just showing he's in that range of players that the Packers met with and where they sit on our PTA big board. So I would be all about it, man. You talk about wanting to build that culture and bring those thumpers in there. I could see this being a dude if you took him in the 3rd to 5th round and he's on special teams for a couple years, for a year and a half, 2 years. He works himself into the nickel defense eventually, whether if you move on from Quay later on or because of injuries. And then the next thing you know, you look up in 5 or 6 years and you're like, this dude just overcame everything and he's a stud. Like when you play the game fearless, like it talks about him playing, and you got the height of 6'3" at an inside linebacker position, like you can't coach that. That's something with 4.52 speed. And oh, by the way, a 90 run defense grade. I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of value there. I really do. So we'll see if it all falls into place for Danny Stutzman. It says all 5 players offer skills that align with Green Bay's roster needs, and their interactions with the Packers during the draft process signal real interest. Which do you like the most of these 5? Let us know in our favorite draft prospects chat here on Patreon. So that's where you can find that article. It is now archived under 3rd round prospects. If you guys go to collections, you'll see all the different organized information that we have on there for you guys and gals. So anything else on this list, boys, before we wrap this segment up? Anything at all? We can scroll back up, down, whatever y'all want to see. Good.
No, I think that's a pretty good breakdown right there.
Are we going to do that for rounds 4 and 5 as well, possibly?
I think we should, man. I think it's really interesting because, again, it's showing where they're hitting on our board. We can kind of talk about where they're projected. There's a lot of different angles we could take, and it's just learning about prospects that the Packers are showing genuine interest in. I think it's huge. So, we'll continue to do that then. All right, next talking point here. This is interesting. Baz kind of hit on it a little bit earlier. His opinion is he thinks Jaire's gone, right? And that's what I'm saying, man. You can go talk to 10 different Packer fans, and you'll probably get maybe 6 or 7 on one side or 3 or 4 on the other, right? It's like nobody's sold one way or the other in terms of like the group as a collective, I guess you could say. So we had a little bit of new information that kind of dropped from the Jaire situation. So I did, the other day we went through and talked about the off the field stuff, and we talked about the injury history. Like, how did we get to this point? Well, let's just give you guys a quick update on what's going on there with Jaire. Is he staying in Green Bay, right? And it's Buckets Goldenberg working overtime again.
So Buckets Goldenberg live from the news desk.
Jaire's future with the Green Bay Packers remains uncertain, but recent signs suggest the star cornerback might stay for 2025. After months of trade rumors, new developments hint at a possible reunion. The trade market for Alexander has been quiet despite the Packers exploring options. No major interest has emerged from other teams. With a $24.99 million cap hit in 2025 and injuries limiting him to 16 games over 2 seasons, suitors may be wary. This lack of buzz could push general manager Brian Gutekunst to keep him, especially without a strong trade return. That's the thing that Goody keeps saying is like, we want to make sure the investment we've made, we get a return on that investment. What he's saying here, in my opinion, if we don't get a return, his ass is playing for Green Bay is the way I take it. Like, if you cut him outright, you don't get anything in return for it.
Right.
That guaranteed money that you gave him was just All right, it's out the door. You took a bath. That's the way it goes, right? So there's just a quick breakdown of the contract. Like it says, a 24.9 cap hit. Now it goes on to say this was as reported by Easton Butler on Twitter. Alexander has also shown goodwill toward new teammate after the Packers signed Nate Hobbs to a 4-year, $48 million deal. Alexander reached out to congratulate him. This move suggests he's still invested in the team, not distancing himself as a departing player might. Hobbs could pair well with Alexander in a revamped secondary if he stays. So Easton Butler put that out. New Packers cornerback Nate Hobbs recently spoke to the Athletics' own Matt Schneidman. Hobbs mentioned who reached out to him. Yeah, X reached out to me. Rashawn Gary, Jaire Alexander actually congratulated me. And yeah, those guys so far as what Nate Hobbs said to Matt Schneidman. So you got Goody saying we got to get enough in return. They specifically asked Goody, do you think there's a chance he could play for him? He said, yeah, I think that's on the table. He didn't close the door. Now, would he close the door? Absolutely not. That would be stupid. That would be bad business. If he said, nope, Jaire ain't playing here. Teams would go, all right, we're just going to wait for you to cut him then. And that could still happen. I'm not saying it's off the table. Moving along here. Meanwhile, this is what broke today. Safety Xavier McKinney posted an Instagram video of him training with Alexander this offseason. McKinney, a defensive leader, and after a stellar 2024, shares a clear bond with Alexander. Fans on X have flagged this workout as evidence he may stick around, as disrupting that chemistry could be costly. I don't know if you guys seen the video, but it was awesome. And listen, Jaire looks like he might have put on a few pounds of muscle. I'm just telling you. Like, he's always been kind of a thicker corner, kind of like we talked about Jahdae Barron. But in this video, I was like, that boy been on the bench. So I don't know. I want to get your all's take on this. With him reaching out to Hobbs, Goody saying, hey, it's still on the table, and now McKinney posting this video of them working out together. Like, am I the only one going, it sure seems like there's more signs pointing to Ja could return than there is Ja's gone. I don't know how y'all feel about that. I want to get your all's take, and then we'll move along here and talk about the cap ramifications and all that. Let's start with you, Emilio. What do you think about this, man? Do you think go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I still think that he's playing. If they didn't figure out the money situation, like, he is still a part of this team. He's still under contract. I don't understand why would we cut him and lose $15 million. I mean, that's rough. I'd much rather ride it out. I think it was 3013 put up a tweet earlier. It was like the NFC North cornerback matchups, and it was John and Hobbs, and they're roughly around 77s, I think. But that combo would be crazy. We wouldn't have to worry about our secondary. We could get Evan and Bullard in there as we needed. We would have, depth. We'd have a lot more depth if Josh stayed, especially him, having that relationship with X, having the relationship with anybody in that room.
All right. Yep. Yeah, Coach Lynn says seems to be that way. 2 for this says, I think the videos are more the boys doing internal recruiting to show how much they want him to stay. I could see that too, Jacob. What do you think, man?
I think that's actually a good point. I think that we looked at what happened and the lack of leadership in this locker room for years prior. And Josh Jacobs and X came in and they said, all right, we're going to fill that void. So I think you saw clearly what Jacobs was doing in the offseason, maybe poking and prodding in certain situations to try to make people light a fire under their butt, if you will. I think that X may be doing something similar on the defensive side of the ball, saying, all right, y'all, let's go out. Let's make some plays. Let's go, have some fun, get the camaraderie together. I do agree as well. It's like, it just seems like such a tap dance for Ja to be doing, where he's reaching out to Nate Hobbs. He's going to hang out with X. He's doing a bunch of stuff where, like, why? I can understand. Yeah, maybe it is because for him to show, hey, I'm not a cancer. I'm still here. I'm the one that still wants to be here. The Packers are the ones that maybe aren't giving me my time of day. That sort of, I could see that being his angle as well. But like you said, now I've been going so far back. At one point in this year, I thought there was a 5% chance that Ja would come back. I went back, and now the other side of the spectrum, I've been like, man, it's like 60-40, and now I'm right back to 50-50. I got not a damn clue. I don't.
Yeah. Coach Lynn, Tim, he says, if you're Ja, why would you why would you not want to play with this secondary? It seems like they're creating something special, man. With what X did numbers-wise last year and Carrington Valentine coming on strong at the end of the year, you go and get this dog. Nate Hobbs seems like he's going to be a firecracker. I'm excited to see him play football in Green Bay, but I completely understand what Coach is saying here, Tim. Like, why if you're Jai, you got to be looking up now going, damn, do I really want to go to Carolina or somewhere where it's like, you know what I mean? Not even competing. Like, because that's his hometown, right? Charlotte. Yep. But if I remember correctly, but why would you want to go somewhere else and be a part of, it seems like they got something special here, I guess, what Coach is saying.
Yeah, and I would agree. I mean, Jaws never said he didn't want to play in the secondary, right? I mean, That's just pure speculation on a lot of us fans, kind of reading into this. And I'm with Jacob too. I've been 50-50 on him throughout this whole process because I don't know what's going to happen, right? Because ultimately Goody's got to make a decision here or not make a decision and let him play football for the Packers. He's under contract. That being said, an explanation for a lot of this could be something that I don't think a lot of us have really talked about or considered is the fact that maybe Jaire's like growing the hell up a little bit, like you talk about the suspensions, you talk about the antics of the past. And if you look at, from, the I don't have nothing nice to say comments during locker room cleanout last year to where he is today, the guy's probably maturing a little bit. And I think he realizes what's going on here with not only the secondary in Green Bay, but this defense as a whole under Jeff Hafley. And why would you want to not be a part of this just when the, things are starting to click and starting to make sense? I also agree with the statement that, we have more depth with Jaire on this football team. I believe that was Emilio that brought that up. I mean, you look at, who we got, behind a guy like Jaire and guys that we may potentially draft. We've broken down several corners that could be potential draft hits for us. You still got a wild card in Kalen King, who didn't see much of the field last year, but another guy that we were kind of excited about in that corner room. So I think it would be perfectly content to continue to play in Green Bay. It's just we already know that they haven't reached out to him for a restructure. It hasn't been discussed. So this could be one of those prove it seasons, and he's under contract. If he balls out this year, maybe we do restructure. Maybe we do figure out how to keep him around until he hangs it up. If not, you move on, right? Bottom line, I do. I think he wants to be a Packer. I think that's evident with the way that he reached out to Nate Hobbs pretty much instantly after that was announced. Probably before it was announced publicly to guys like us. He was probably on the phone already welcoming him in. And then you see the bond he's forming here with McKinney. I mean, let's be real. You talk about the captains of that defense on the back end. It's Jaire Alexander and Xavier McKinney. Those are your veteran dudes in this secondary. And I think we're a better team with them playing together.
Yeah, completely agree. 2-0 for this says Keyshawn Nixon also tagged Jaire in an Insta story of him working out as well. Deadfish says a healthy job means this defense make this defense seem scary. Just need another D tackle and fill in some reserves. Completely agree. How about the fact that Baz mentioned, man, I think we should go defensive tackle. We were all like, thank you.
I know.
Been saying that since freaking January. So 2-0 for this says if it's more Jaire's camp that's wanting to leave, then the teammates showing him he's appreciated is super important. It really is. Yep. It is. And again, Goody's just keeping the cards close to the vest. Yeah, I think that's on the table. He could come back. Again, I wouldn't roll out anything at this point, right?
Yep.
I think it's fair to say too, just real quick, that Goody, like you just said, Clay, he's doing, he's sitting there like Chris Moneymaker with his sunglasses on, waiting for somebody else to either call or to say something or to make a move, or for Jaire to say something or make a move, or for somebody to say, like you said, he even is willing to wait past the draft. And then a certain player maybe that they thought was going to fall to him. Certain teams thought we don't need help in the secondary. We don't have to stretch. We don't have to make even the call to Brian Gutekunst and even make a proposal. He's cool, I really do believe, with just chilling and waiting and let the cards fall as they may, because at the end of the day, worst case scenario, he's got Jaire by the what.
He does, man.
He really does. And I just think everybody's sitting here just, Goody's got to do this, he's got to do that. I think he's sitting there with the emoji with the sunglasses with the whole spliff, and he's like, I don't give a crap what y'all do.
It's true, man. It's true. J. Cole says if Ja buys in and then we add Trey Amos, say 54 in this draft, then the secondary could be good. Could you imagine that secondary, Emilio? You'd have Jaire on one side. You'd have Nate Hobbs and Keyshawn Nixon battling for a spot on the other. Trey Amos stepping into camp. He may be a superstar day one. Who knows? And then, of course, you got Carrington Valentine, who, had the best passer rating when targeted of anybody on the team last year.
Right.
Like, you could get into that situation where it's like, we've got 2 spots open. That's the reality. There's 2 cornerback spots open, even if Ja returns to the Packers, right? So with that being said, it's like you add Trey Amos into that cornerback room, Emilio.
Yeah, I would be running to Jeff Halfley and say, you better get to work, man. I need 110% out of whatever DB whisperer you are, and just get to work. Because if we have that kind of secondary, that's really going to open up the front 4. And if we can get pressure with 4 and still be able to cover with 7, once in a while bring 5, cover with 6, but having the confidence to be able to leave a guy out there on an island or if we wanted to bring a blitz, being able to do that stuff without having to worry about having the safety net over the top, I think that would be crazy.
Definitely. And remind me, Trey Amos here in a second, okay? Don't let me forget that. We'll finish this up real quick. Packers GM Brian Gutekunst hasn't ruled out Alexander's return either at the NFL spring meetings on March 31st, 2025. He said, quote, it could be a possibility, absolutely, when asked about Jaire staying. He hopes for clarity before the draft, signaling flexibility. This contrasts with earlier talk of a fractured relationship, hinting at the Packers might retain him. Alexander's time in Green Bay has been turbulent, elite when healthy, but marred by injuries and a 2023 suspension. Trading him before June 1st saves $6.9 million in cap space. Post June 1, it's $17.1 million per over the cap. Yet with no trade suitors and Alexander engaging with the team, keeping him could make sense. Paired with McKinney and Hobbs, he could fit the defense, lift the defense to new heights. Says Gutekunst faces a choice: hold out for a trade or lean into Alexander's recent actions and the lack of interest elsewhere. The decision could define the Packers' 2025 season. You know what it kind of feels like to me, Tim? Remember the Rasul Douglas trade? Yep. Goody said, I don't want to trade him. He said, I didn't want to trade him, but at some point the offer becomes too good, right? That hasn't happened with Ja, right? So it kind of feels like that same situation. He's approaching that the same exact way, and it's like, hey, look, we haven't gotten the offer we want yet. Just like with Rasul, they probably would have kept him if the best the offer was a 6th-round pick, right? Right. So
I agree. And then in the meantime, what are we doing? We're bringing another talent. We're continuing to get better at the position group. We're in a good spot. We're in a good spot with that cornerback room. Not a great spot, but a good spot, with or without Ja in the mix. Right. We've played this scenario out both ways, right? We just talked about how great it would be, if Ja was still in the fold with the guys that we've brought in and the guys we may potentially bring in. Same scenario if Ja's traded or he's a post-June 1 cut or whatever it is. You still feel pretty good about your DBs in Green Bay, which is, again, I'm old enough to remember when we were ready to beat down the doors at 1265, begging for cornerbacks. So this is a good spot either way.
Yeah. And I remember us talking about this last year. You know how every year leading up to the draft, the Packers social media team will put out prospect spotlights. Look who today's was, just so happens. Trey Amos.
Here's the guy.
I immediately was like, today's player is. So go check that out, Prospect Primer over there. Look like presented by American Family Insurance over on Packers.com. It's just we've been talking Trey Amos at 54, then all of a sudden the Packers pop that up, and I'm like, man. And I don't think it's them going, hey, guys, get ready. We're going to draft Trey Amos. I think they're doing the same thing we're doing with the social media team. The social media team is not going to Matt LaFleur and going, hey, what do you think? That's not happening. They're reading the tea leaves too and like putting out these prospect spotlights. Like you haven't seen them spotlight any quarterbacks, right? You haven't seen them spotlight any running backs.
Yep.
Looking at the same type of stuff we are in terms of information. So I don't know. I think that's kind of cool, man. So, all right, we got one more article to get to. Anything else you guys want to add to the Jaire talk before we move along? Anything else? I think we've covered it.
Tell you, Pack is back. You heard it from a fan right here.
Perfect.
Yeah, smooth.
Job. All right. So this came down the pike earlier today, and you guys helped me confirm, is this official? That's the one thing I could not get. Was this rule change actually, or not really a rule change, but this chain gang change actually official? What I did was I read multiple articles. I took all the articles, compiled them together, and said, hey, give me the most important information from these 5 or 6 different articles. And here's what we came up with. I didn't do it. Bucket Skoldenberg did. Okay. And here's what we got. NFL set to swap chains for cameras with Hawkeye tech in 2025. It's what we've been talking about. Like I want the calls to be right on the field. We got supposedly we can hit a damn asteroid however many miles away with something the size of a Volkswagen, but we can't figure out if something was a first down or not. You know what I mean? Like, this is ridiculous. So here's what we got. The NFL is ditching its century-old chain crew tradition for a high-tech alternative to measure first downs starting in the 2025 season. Sony revealed this week that its Hawkeye system, a camera-driven technology, will take over as the league's go-to method for tracking the line to gain. This isn't Hawkeye's first rodeo. It got a test drive during a handful of 2024 preseason games. Now it's ready for the big leagues, rolling out across every NFL stadium and even international venues next year. The setup relies on 6 8K cameras to follow. That sounds like Jacob's bedroom. 6 8K cameras to follow the ball's every move. Shut up, Amelia. Look at you up there. Delivering pinpoint accuracy on whether a team has earned a fresh set of downs. Sony's announcement highlighted that fans won't be left guessing. Virtual renderings of the measurement will pop up on TV broadcasts and stadium screens. So they're going to add some kind of virtual aspect to this, which I think is absolutely awesome. Meanwhile, the classic chain gang isn't disappearing entirely. They'll stick around on the sidelines as a backup just in case. Do you guys remember this game right here where they actually had to slide a piece of paper in to see if they met the first down or not? You remember that, Tim? I was like, what the hell is he doing with an index? What are we doing out here? So anyway.
I've also seen a million times that the side judge comes in, spots the ball, and then they bring a chain gang out, and then the official moves the ball backwards 4 inches. And
right.
So, you
yeah,
know.
But dude, that drives me nuts when the guy that's spotting the ball is running from 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and he's like, yeah, I got a good view from where I was back there from behind it on a completely bad angle. And then, like you said, you just watch the other line judge just walk up and he goes, just places it like 6 inches away. You're like, what? How was this efficient?
Did somebody from New York call him in the earpiece and tell him to move that ball back?
That's what I think.
It's what you wonder. But my question in all of this is, I do like the fact that at least they're not like physically removing the chain gang from the sideline, and that they're still going to be there as a
but isn't that kind of degrading? They're just sitting there like,
no. Well, that's my question is, because you got to remember, like, the sticks help the players on the field too. You can see the line.
Definitely.
So them still being there is good. My question is, does that change review or challenges? So like you throw the red flag and say, hey, bring the chains out, or are we just going to trust the league to just voluntarily bring the chains out on occasion? You know, that would be my question. How does this affect, the replay rules or the challenges?
Yeah, 2-0 for this in the chat said it's like the camera in Michael and Jan's bedroom at the dinner party. I told you to put that away. Such a good episode. The dinner party episode.
Yeah. The $100 plasma TV.
We just pushed it in. God, it's so good. I need to watch that tonight. All right, continuing on here. The system still leans on refs to spot the ball by hand after each play. Well, that's awful nice. So when they don't have a robot running it out there. But Hawkeye steps in to make the final call on first downs. According to NFL Network's Mike Garafolo, the league found that the old chain method took about 75 seconds per measurement, while the virtual approach slashes that time to 30 seconds, a win for pace and precision. For over 100 years, chains and markers ruled the gridiron, manned by part-time crew members earning minimum wage. Really? As noted by ESPN's Kyle Bonagura and Chris Rim. That's crazy. So they've got these are people that actually reported they're only getting paid minimum wage to run the chain gang. That's wild.
What?
Now this tech upgrade marks a new chapter building on the NFL's partnership with Sony that kicked off in 2024. And that's not all Sony's bringing to the table. Coaches will also get upgraded sideline headsets in 2025, complete with noise-canceling features, a step up from the older model. This is wild. Hat tip to the CNET's David Katzmeyer for that detail. So there you go. What do y'all think about it, boys? I think this is a good thing. I really do.
I mean, it's called Hawkeye. Does that mean anybody drafted from Iowa gets an advantage in the?
That's right. It's weird to me that basically it's Dwight Schrute's Computron is now running the NFL. Like you just punch in.
A-Fam said the chain gang should be working for free. What the hell's wrong with you, A-Fam? Like, you think these people ain't like? Let's get you out there with that mustache, sir. How about that on the sideline?
I also like from what it said there. I like that it's not every single play. We're not relying on the computer to spot the ball. Like, all right, ref, get out there, spot it, because I think we lose a lot of time in first down to second down playing if you're trying to hurry up, that sort of stuff. Like that, it's just that just confirming a first down measurement looks like.
Yeah, look at this. Deadfish says Doge is firing the chain.
Dang.
Drew says Hawkeye is what they use in tennis. Cool, I didn't know that.
And that's a big deal because they've used that for years in tennis, and tennis was the big, no, we don't want any AI in our tennis game. And it came out to be like, because that's within a fraction of a centimeter, you know what I mean? As far as whether it's inline or outline, love, whatever the heck they say over there. What comes
over there as if tennis is played in one country.
Yeah, that's a strictly European sport, obviously. All right. Clearly.
I love it. Oh, Jacob, I swear I love you, man. All right. Moving along here. Is there anything else you guys want to add to that conversation right there? Anything at all?
I mean, Clayton, you're a baseball guy. I mean, this reminds me a lot of the strike zone and the pitch tracking.
Now that Angel Hernandez or whatever the heck that guy is out of the league, I don't think we have to worry about human influence. You remember who I'm talking about? Yeah, the worst of all time. Was it Angel Hernandez or Angel? It was Angel something. He was the worst, to the point where the announcers would be like, "Oh, you can't do that. You can't make that call." It was terrible.
No, Tim, you're spot on though, dude. You're spot on. Like it's you got the technology to get the call right. Get the call right, and it just goes back to what we talk about, Tim. Like, does the league really want to get it right, or do they want to have that little bit of bend, a little bit of flexibility? Right. That's what it kind of feels like.
Yep. And it doesn't matter. I mean, if they're more accurate and they're still gonna use enhanced replay and do extended reviews and double and triple check and then get the call wrong anyway because they want to influence the outcome of a game, then we're doing all this for a whole lot of nothing, Yeah,
that's a great point. All right, so I'm excited about it again, man. I've seen some people being negative online. I'm like, I don't understand why this is a negative thing. This is something that's going to make the calls more accurate, and that's all I want to know. I know you've been playing college football 25, man. You got that first down. It comes up 4th and inches. You're like, come on.
Oh, my God. We passed the line. We already fell forward, and the dude just gets pushed. Sometimes that game is glitchy, man. But I do like that, we're taking a little bit out of the refs that we already get mad at to begin with. We don't want the replacement ref situation again. I think that at some point we had to make an advancement, in the technology for the game. I'm glad they made the jump for it. It's just if it gets out of hand, we need to reel it in. But I think it's a perfect start.
You're so right about the replacement refs, right? Russell Wilson, the only quarterback in NFL history to throw a game-winning interception.
That is so bad, dude.
Crazy.
Hardy the Prophet with the super chat. Thank you, sir. He says, I'm cool if Hawkeyes get a boost. Let's go LVN. Hawkeyes fan in the house. So here's the video and thank you for that super chat, Hardy. Appreciate you, buddy. This was the video that was actually posted on Instagram earlier today. Check out Jai. He's still got that same energy.
You see it, man? Yeah.
Gotta love the John Wall dance there. Did you see that? Right there. Look, get the little flex going. It's Emilio on the dance floor on Saturday night, right there, man. You kidding me?
I think you're right though. He bulked up a little bit, and I'm wondering if the logic is, hey, make yourself a little more impervious to the wear and tear of playing the position. Ja's dealt with a lot of nagging injuries. You know, put a little more meat on the bones. Never know, man. This could be that year for him.
Could be, man. Could be. And again, I just want what's best for the Packers. If we can get a solid draft pick in return, and he wants to move on, it's best for both parties. Great. If there's not an offer out there, it seems like both sides may be mature and go, "Hey, look, man, this best thing is just stay here." You know, that could be the case. Us emotional fans, we look at it different. Like, no, he got suspended. Or the others are like, Goody's an idiot. It's like they're just sitting back probably going, yeah, man, we'll see what works out best for both of us. They're probably on good terms in that regard. So I don't know. We'll see, though, man. We'll see. So I'm getting car sick here watching this.
Yeah, seriously.
All right. Anything else, gents? I think we covered everything, man. We stayed on time. We got to talk to Baz. How was Baz tonight, man? That was awesome.
That was cool.
Love that,
yeah. I wish I would have known.
A lot of information inside of 20 minutes. That was great.
Yeah. He's so good at what he does, man. And for you guys don't know his story, he started his YouTube channel when he's in high school. And he just put together highlight reels of the Packers, huge Packer fan, and just slowly build it and build it and build it. He's been doing this a long time. And again, that's why when I reached out to him, I was like, hey, man, would you like to come on the show? You know what he said to me? Nobody's ever asked me to go on the show. I'm like, really? Like, you got one of the most successful YouTube channels there is for Packers. Just so humble. And you heard him what he said, you know, just in his draft coverage. He's not a know-it-all. Dude's he's awesome.
He just likes it. It's just fun.
Yeah, exactly. Some people need to try that. They need to smile more. They need to stop trying to act so damn cool, because we know when you're not around other people, I promise you're not at the house going, yeah, I look cool. You're miserable like the rest of us. How about smiling?
I wish you guys would have told me, though, because I wouldn't have put my Oval Office tag and J Money there.
I feel like Jim. It's pronounced job money.
Thank you. I feel like Jim when he wore the tuxedo and Charles Miner shows up and he's like, "Why didn't you tell?" He's like, "You look dynamite. What are you worried about?"
For my next trick, I'll make my career disappear.
All right, rapid fire, real quick. Just a little bit more information here from Easton Butler, and we'll get out. Hawaii defensive back Cam Stone met with the Packers at his pro day. He was praised there for his footwork and ball skills. I know we already updated this, I'm pretty sure, Emilio, so we're good to go there. That's another DB that's on the radar. And then we had a couple more here I'll rattle through. This one came out of New Hampshire. I don't think we covered this one yet. We talked about it, I think, offline last night. New Hampshire DB / what's RS? Why am I missing that? Like, what is RS?
Return specialist.
There you go. Thank you. Caleb Mead spoke with the Packers and Patriots at his pro day. So we got a couple New Hampshire guys coming out of the woodwork here. And the second one out of New Hampshire, this is going to piss Daryl off. Cornerback, really? They met with quarterback Seth Morgan out of New Hampshire. Packers.
Here's a guy.
So might potentially be one of those practice squad guys that you want to throw in there and start developing. You know, might be the next Sean Clifford if they decide to move on from him or something. So there we go. Oh, look at that. SDM40 says Baz already tweeted about the weird bearded porn addict on PTA. Jacobs, they got you. They got you, man.
Should have known.
It happens.
You know what?
All right. Anything else, fellas?
God, no.
How do you follow that, right?
You just end the show. That's all.
I mean, I guess one quick, we could just shout out to J. Cole. It feels good to make it another year on this earth. Happy birthday, J. Cole.
You know what we need to do for J. Cole since it's his birthday, Tim? Let's hit him with that remix tonight as we end the show. You want to? That's what we're going to start doing for birthday. People are going to start lying about their birthday. Get that song tuned up for us, Tim. Me and Tim's going to bring us home. I'll get it to Tim.
How many times are you going to come to my press conference late?
My knee. Get ready to go.
Duval.
Who?
Sit your butt outside.
Cheese curds in my stomach hurt all the time, but I do eat them.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Happy birthday.
Just the tip, though.
All right. We're out, guys. Hit that like, hit subscribe, whether you're on Rumble, YouTube, X, or Facebook. Appreciate everything you guys do. And, we'll catch y'all tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central for PTA Live. As of right now, everything should line up, and we'll do that. Also, if you're a member of the Patreon group, at least a $3 tier, giving away this autographed Javon Bullard rookie card this Saturday night. So make sure you're in the Patreon group. all kinds of extra content in there. Emilio keeps updating the board for everyone. It's funny. Did you see them in the chat earlier today, Emilio? They went, "We need a legend for this board. We don't know what all these symbols mean."
Well, it'll be the next edition. Yeah.
Yeah, probably need to do that.
We'll put a legend together.
I threw it in a message real quick, and I think I got it right. I probably should have checked with you, to be honest with you. So, all right, we'll see y'all tomorrow. Everybody have a great night. Take care.
Let me go.
Bye, guys.